Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today, March 4th of 2022, to talk with you about something that I think is very troubling. I know we've been very busy speaking about what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. We've been busy speaking about the policies of the Biden-Harris administration and the State of the Union. But this issue is just as important, although it is less reported. We're talking about the change in the congressional districts in the United States, and we're going to emphasize New York State, my home state, in particular as an example, but it's the voter nullification that is going on that we think is quite troubling and being used by many politicians and candidates against the public. Now, we'll explain what we mean in just one moment. First, we want to mention that if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we welcome you and we thank you for being part of our audience. We also want you to know that we do long-form political commentary, and every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that the internet overlords will allow to hear your voice, your tweets, your chats, and your phone calls from anywhere around the world to tell us what you think about these issues that are affecting us all. And so we look forward to hearing your voice because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe that your voice matters. And we hope you will join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to lend your voice from anywhere in the world. Now, there's been a lot going on in the world. Since the beginning of 2022, we have been seeing the buildup and the expansion of the troubles with the Ukraine and Russia, and now that has led to a war. We have seen an increase in inflation. We've seen our economy being devastated. We are looking at many problems around the globe. But there are issues at home that are just as important. And probably one of the biggest ones is voter nullification, where voters are no longer important because the politicians in charge have usurped their voices. Now, that's been seen in the 800,000 non-citizens that will be voting in New York City, which, since there is no way to separate the ballots, will also affect, we believe, our congressional races and statewide races as well. But beyond that, there is also the fact that the congressional districts have been redrawn based on the 2020 census. New York State only lost one congressional district in that move, but the lines of each of the districts had to be redrawn. Because of the single-party rule of New York State by Democrats in the state legislature, that led to voter nullification, in our opinion. Now, one of those candidates in particular is someone that we know, Mr. Joshua Riley. And he was initially planning to run in the New York 22nd District against sitting Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. But the New York 22nd District doesn't exist in the way it did before. Previously, the New York 22nd District represented the public and showed that this was a Republican stronghold in central New York, because most of upstate New York is Republican. But that wasn't beneficial to Democrats in the state government. That had to be changed. It has been changed in such a way as to silence the voice of many of the people. The thing that caused us to do this video, we received this message and we saw this tweet from Josh Riley. Now, we want to mention, we've known Josh Riley for the better part of a decade now, and we were in conversations with Josh throughout 2021 to try and organize an interview with him. But with the redrawing of the lines and the creation of a new New York 22nd District, Josh has changed his opinion. He stopped speaking to us, and he has no longer responded to us in efforts to have an interview. We continue to hope that he will change his mind. Now, Josh is a resident on the books as a resident of Broome County, New York, which I am in as well. For some reason, Josh has decided to run for the New York 22nd District. I'm going to get to his tweet in just a second. But we want you to understand that Broome County is here. The New York 22nd District is there. That's in Onondaga, part of Madison, part of Cortland, part of Tompkins, Cayuga, Seneca. That's the New York 22nd District. Perhaps I can show you a better way to see it here. This is Broome County, right down here. That's where Josh lives. This is the New York 22nd District. Another way to look at it. This is Broome County. This is Syracuse. That's what Josh is running for. And you may say, well, why would Josh run for a district he's not part of, in a region of New York that he's not connected to? Doesn't make a lot of sense until you look at this map. When you look at this map, the old New York 22nd District was a Republican district. In fact, as you can see, most of upstate New York was a Republican district. In fact, they had voted for former President Donald Trump 11.7%. The new redistricting created a district where now Biden has an 18% lead. And it cuts the heart out of a Republican district, creating a stronghold for Democrats that never existed before. This is where we're seeing Josh run. Josh lives here. This district is Antonio Delgado, the New York 19th, which would make sense because that's the district that Josh is in, where he knows people, theoretically, where he has connections to the community, theoretically. Not in Syracuse. So this is political. This has been done to benefit him because of the number of Democrats in that district, this new creation by New York State Democratic Party. They wanted to end the ability of Republicans to be able to vote. They wanted to pressure them. And Josh is asking us for money, which I can understand. He would ask us because he knows us. But he also knows that we are conservative Republicans and that we will not donate to his campaign. We don't believe he's the best candidate, at least for the New York 22nd District as it was. As for the new New York 22nd District, well, that's Syracuse, and it has nothing to do with us. But why is he asking us for money for a district he won't represent? He won't represent Broome County. He won't represent the people that he went to school with and that he grew up with, that he's very proud to tell us about. He's from the Endicott region. He's happy to tell us about Union Endicott, where he went to school. And he wants us to give him money to run and represent Syracuse. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would I want to give him money for that? And then I notice this, because Josh isn't just asking people from an entirely separate county to give him money to run and represent people in entirely different counties that are not connected to us, but he also wants to introduce sexism into this race. Why would he introduce sexism into a race? Perhaps it's because it's a Democratic district. What he said is 9 unelected Supreme Court justices wearing robes and sitting on a bench, 2/3 of whom are men and 1/3 of whom were appointed by Donald Trump, have no business dictating what a woman can or can't do with her body. That's a very interesting statement, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. First of all, the Supreme Court, yes, they wear robes. So what? That's their uniform. They're supposed to wear robes. So that's not indicative of anything, although he's stating it as a negative for some reason. By the way, Josh is a lawyer. He knows this. 2/3 of whom are men. So what does that have to do with anything? They're lawyers. They're judges. They are looking at the Constitution. The Constitution is not dictated by men and women. So what does that matter? In fact, we had to make a comment because there's so much wrong with this statement, and he's asking for money to support him in this misstatement. As we said, one, as you know, because he is a lawyer, the Supreme Court isn't elected to reduce partisanship. They are not elected officials. They have lifetime appointments. That lifetime appointment is so that they are not political. They are not beholden to any political party. They don't have to worry about raising money or getting votes or getting political favors done so that they can stay in office. They are there for life, so that politics is hopefully reduced, if not eliminated, in what they are doing to judge whether laws are constitutional or not, because that is their job. We go on to say, law and justice are not gender-based, as you're inferring, because he's saying, well, because there's 2/3 men on the Supreme Court, well, that is a bias. Why? Because what does it have to do with whether you're male or female if you have the right to speak, if you have a right to practice your religion freely without persecution from the government or others? What does your gender have to do with whether or not you have the right to defend your home and yourself and your family with a firearm? What does your gender have to do with your right to privacy, say as to keep the IRS out of your bank accounts? What does this have to do with anything? It doesn't. The answer to those things are gender, like your sexual preference, like your skin color, has nothing to do with it, except it's an emotional button to be pushed to try and get Democrats and progressives to be angry, to suddenly say, well, that's sexist. Isn't it sexist? Because there's not enough representation, where representation isn't important. The quality of the individual, the education and their experience and their knowledge of the Constitution, that's important. What's not important is what their gender, their skin color, their sexual preference, their religion, none of that matters, because that's not what the Constitution is defined by. We go on. We mentioned 3, Trump. President Trump is not in office, and he has not been for more than a year. Get over it. Why is it that we have to hear from every Democratic candidate, elected or just a candidate seeking election, that they have to refer to Donald Trump? Donald Trump hasn't been in office. Donald Trump isn't responsible for the increase in inflation at 7.5% and increasing. Donald Trump isn't responsible for abandoning Americans in Afghanistan. Donald Trump isn't responsible for abandoning Americans in the Ukraine. That's all Joe Biden. He's the one who's sitting in the White House. He's the one who is responsible. Joe Biden has divided America and separated American citizens. He's responsible for that. Donald Trump hasn't been making laws for over a year. Donald Trump hasn't been writing executive orders like the executive order by Joe Biden to end the XL pipeline that increased the cost of gas and energy in the United States, leading to a 40% increase according to the United States government itself. So why does Donald Trump matter? He's not in charge. 4th item, the Supreme Court are not beholden to any politician or party. That's why it's lifetime. Again, getting back to politics is not supposed to be involved with this. Political agendas, the goals of certain political parties, like the far left, like their adherence to identity and gender politics, their adherence to critical race theory, their adherence to intersectionality, that has nothing to do with the Supreme Court. Those aren't issues in the Constitution. It doesn't matter to them, and it shouldn't. And so he goes on to say that these individuals on the Supreme Court, that they have no business dictating what a woman can or can't do with her body. Then I have to ask a question, which may be the reason why Josh Riley will not do the interview he has promised to do personally with me. But the government can mandate vaccines, which is dictating what a woman can do with her body. The mandates that were being put out by disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo and continued by appointed Governor Kathy Hochul, the dictates, the vaccine mandates that came from the Biden-Harris administration, from Joe Biden telling us that he had no patience for the unvaccinated, that the unvaccinated are the enemy, that they are others. That came from Democrats. That came from Joe Biden, a man. Dr. Fauci, a man. Does that make a difference? And more importantly, it's the government that is telling women, pregnant women, single women, telling them that they must inject a series of drugs, multiple times into their bodies that have not had long-term testing. We don't know what are the side effects or consequences of these medications. There may be none. There seems to be some impact to various individuals across this nation. And yet, women don't get a choice on that. Apparently, Josh Riley is perfectly fine with individuals being forced to receive vaccinations that either by religion or by their personal health or by their free choice do not want the vaccination. And yet he seems perfectly fine with forcing women to do that. But the Supreme Court has too many men on it, so that's a problem. And why does Josh care about that? He's running for Congress. He has no vote on who is on the Supreme Court or not. He has no voice in what the Supreme Court will decide. That has nothing to do with Congress. If anything, that is a matter for the Senate. And he should be speaking to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand or Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who are Democrats. Perhaps he should speak to them about his concerns, but not the American people, not the residents of New York State, certainly not the residents of Broome County when he's running in Syracuse. So why is this happening? Because of voter nullification. Because Josh is not willing to run against another Democrat, but he is willing to take on a Democrat stronghold. That he wants money from people coming from the New York 19th district to go to him in his race for the New York 22nd, which he doesn't live in. Why? Because he thinks he can win. Because he thinks that due to the actions of the New York State Democratic Party, he has been given an opportunity. And he's going to use that opportunity to his best advantage, regardless of what the people believe. Because the people didn't change. The people who were in the old New York 22nd district are the same people that now exist in the New York 19th and New York 23rd districts. There are just as many Republicans. They're being nullified by the Democratic Party. So I find it somewhat upsetting and perhaps even insulting that Josh Riley, who has my personal phone number, who has my personal email, who has spoken with me in person many years, has ceased speaking with me and is now trying to ask me and you for money for a race in an area that he doesn't live in, that he doesn't know about. And he wants to do it because he wants to blame sexism of a group he has no control over and no contact with. Josh, something's wrong here. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why should people in Broome County give you money for sexism that doesn't exist, that doesn't apply, for influence that you don't have and you cannot attain even if you were to be elected? It doesn't make sense. And so that's why we have to bring this up. I'd be happy to ask Josh Riley directly. And Josh, you have my phone number. You know me. You're more than welcome onto this program to answer this question. What does the Supreme Court have to do with you as a member of Congress, which is what you are running for? They have no influence on you. You have no influence on them. Why should individuals in Broome County, where you claim to live, why should they give you money to run for a race in Syracuse that has no connection to Broome County? I'd be happy to hear your answers. And please tell me, why is it sexist for the Supreme Court to rule on constitutional issues, but it's not sexist to force women to be vaccinated? I would love to hear your answer on this. And I think anyone who's voting in the New York 22nd District or any race in New York State should have answers to that question. That's what we believe. We'd like to hear what you think. And we look forward to hearing your answer. Thank you.